Damn, that fucking crazy. Oh, that's no good. What is up, my dudes? Back at it again with another video. As you guys can see from the first clip, this transmission is not looking so well. I don't know what's going on with this trans. Carlos said he did a pull in 4th gear, and then when he put it in 3rd and he was slowing down, it started to make a really bad noise, as you guys could hear from the clip. It sounds really bad. So what we opted to do, honestly, was to rebuild another transmission, which we're going to be doing in this video. And we are just going to be moving this LSD, the Quaife LSD in this transmission, over to another transmission that we have for the car. So if you guys don't know, this is the A6 Z6 Minime Vitara long rod setup that I built. The transmission is actually an SI trans with an SI final drive, but the gearing is ZC 1 through 5. So the gears are a little bit shorter. We are going to be going to an SI trans, full SI trans, SI gearing with this Quaife LSD that's in this trans now. So the gears will be a little bit longer. We'll be able to stay in boost a little bit longer. It'll just pull a little bit longer in each gear. It's not a whole lot longer, but it is a little bit longer. So yeah, we're going to pull this transmission out, see what's wrong with it, and then get the other transmission up here on my little table and get this thing rebuilt. I really want to see what's wrong with this because only 3rd gear makes that crazy noise. So I'm hoping that it's maybe a broken tooth and not like a broken shaft or something, because I might be able to find like straight cut gear set for this, put them together, and then have another built trans for like an EF, a cable trans for EF. And that setup. So I'm gonna pull this trans. I'm not gonna show you guys how to do that. I have to take off the intercooler piping, remove this mount and that mount and that mount. So these 3 mounts, remove the T-bracket. Well, it's not a T-bracket, it's just a plate. So it's gonna be pretty easy, but I'm gonna pull the trans and I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like when we pull this case apart, and we'll see what went wrong. All right, cool. I got the transmission out. I have it resting on a jack, the engine on the jack with the 2 pieces of wood, so it's not on like the crank pulley. I pulled the throttle body off so it wouldn't hit the firewall, so we're all good there. And I just want to show you guys like what's going on. So anyways, you heard the noise. 3rd gear, when you push the shift linkage forward for 3rd, it actually pulls this thing outward. So pulling it straight back is 3rd gear, and then you can hear that little click. So right here, I think there's a tooth broke. So I want to put it up on our bench, aka the table, and pull it open, see what's up, see what's broken. Alrighty. Let's see what the damage is. I see a lot of material. Lots of material. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh. Woo! Wow. Wow. How many teeth is that? 1, 2, 3 3/4 teeth gone? 3 1/3? 3 2/3? That's crazy. Now, Carlos said he did a 4th gear pull and that happened. So I'm not sure what happened, to be honest. Either way, that's the damage. Sheesh. 275 foot-pounds of torque. Just couldn't take it, I guess. I mean, it could have been fractured. So we drive this thing hard. You know, flat foot first to second, flat foot second to third. And yeah, with 20 pounds in third, 275 foot-pounds of torque. you know, so that's definitely what did her in. Damn. Okay, I got everything basically apart, and as you can see, there's chunks everywhere. This thing literally ate the gear pieces that broke off. The Coif LSD, I believe, is in perfect condition. I am going to try and clean it as best I possibly can, and then when we put it together, we're gonna flush it 1 or 2 times. Not sure how many times, but we're gonna flush it, so we can get any of the material that's in there out and get that out of the trans. When you do rebuild a trans, you're supposed to flush it, at least with carbon synchros, flush it like 50 miles into the rebuild, and then you should be good. But we are going to probably do 1 or 2 flushes to try and get all the material that's left over in the differential, if there's anything left over in the differential, and get it all out of there so that we can have good running transmission and see where it goes. All right, boys, so this is the transmission we're going to be rebuilding for Carlos's car and moving that LSD into. This is a Cable D series transmission. It's an L3 CRX SI trans. This transmission was actually in Carlos's car when he had the dual cam ZC in it before he put the B16 in it. So I'm going to show you guys how to take this thing apart. I believe there are a few things that I added to this SI trans with ZC gearing when I rebuilt it the first time. I believe there's a spring under here, D10 spring with a ball, which helps the shifts forward and backward feel more notchy. I think I replaced that spring with a heavier duty one. And then the spring that goes here, which makes the left and right feel more heavy duty, the spring is in here. That will also get put into the other trans to make everything feel solid. I took the differential gear off the LSD, and if you can see on these bolts, right on the bolt there at the top, there's a little arrow points left. These are reverse thread bolts, so left is actually tight and right is loose. Taking them out, I'm not sure what happened to the threads, but they all look kind of bitched. So the ones I pull out of this trans, I'm going to be using on this ring gear on the diff. Now, what I also noticed is that, if you can see right here on the case, this groove or mark or whatever, that's actually getting rubbed by the differential. I'm not sure what the fuck this is or why that would even cause that issue, but this is actually rubbing the differential, and I'll show you where. And also, I noticed that the shift fork broke too. So I assume either this broke and then broke the teeth off of the gear, or this broke. I don't know. But that's that piece right there. That's supposed to be right there, and it's not because it broke. So I assume that maybe that broke and got lodged between the tooth while Carlos was doing a pull, and that's what broke the tooth. But I'm not really sure because he wasn't even in that gear. So that's my only real idea of what happened. So it didn't break because of power, I don't think. Yeah, I'm assuming, but whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys how to take this thing apart. And there's 13 12 millimeter bolts on the outside. There's also these two 12 millimeters that hold the clutch cable on. Pull that off. I'm gonna pull this off as well, and this top of the case. You pull off this sealant nut thingy, and then inside there's a little spring you have to open, and it drops the shaft down. I'll show you guys how to do that. I'm gonna knock these out, open this up real quick, and we can start taking it apart. Alright, looking down into this hole here, you can see this right here. You can see the two spring-like arms. You gotta open them up because they sit in a groove on the gear or on the bearing. Once you open them up wide enough, usually when you open them up wide enough, the trans falls down, but the shaft falls down. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to separate this a little bit. Once you separate it, then you can lift the case up a little, and then the weight of gravity will pull the shaft down. All right, I got it up a little bit. I got the flat head kind of like holding it up a little bit. And then you go in here like this. If you guys can see that. Open it. Okay. This is a pain, but yeah. You're gonna try and just lift the case up while you open that, and it should drop right down. Let's see if I can do it real quick. Alright, I finally got it. You'll see it's kind of like stuck open. I gotta do my best to try and not let it drop. So I'm gonna just shimmy this thing up and get the case off. There we go, you heard the click. Came right up off the bearing. Now this should come right up off. Beautiful. Definitely needs cleaning, but beautiful. Alright, so to take these transmissions apart, there's a few things you gotta do. First of all, you gotta take the reverse gear selector and the gear and the shaft out. Just two 10 milliliters. Pull that out, pull the shaft up, and the gear comes out like that. I'm gonna clean all this stuff. Boom, and then from there, honestly, you gotta take two bolts out, and you can take the shafts out. So, well, you only really need to take one, but I take this bolt out right here, which locks the selector mechanism on the shaft to the shaft. And so this shaft goes in, it does this mechanism here, and it goes over, and then that mechanism is what actuates the shift selectors, shift forks. So I take this nut out, this bolt out, save that washer, and then I usually take this nut out too, which takes the spring out, and then on the other side there's an Allen key which unlocks this mechanism from going too far on the shaft and lets it spin freely. And with that done, you can then lift up the shaft and the shift forks at one and come right out. So I'll show you guys that real quick. See how soft that spring is? Change that out. Alright, now to get this shaft piece to be able to move how we need it to, there's a nut, or there's an Allen bolt right here. This has to come out. Once we get that out, we can move the shaft, and then we can pull the two shift forks up and get the shafts out. I don't think this thing has ever been out. So it does have like a dowel which holds everything in place, holds it still so it doesn't move. Okay, now we got that bolt out of there. This is free. This piece is free to move up and down however it needs to. So the shafts and shift fork, just grab them together like this, wiggle, and they should come right up out. Now this is kind of odd. Underneath the shaft right here on the bearing, there's a spacer or shim. This one only has one. This one over here has two. So I'm not sure if this trans has been opened before or what. I guess I'll just have to check the input shaft in and out play. I haven't done that before, but I was going to do that with this trans, so we're going to see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and get this differential out of here. Usually I just turn it over, tap it, and it comes right out. Now I'm going to be disassembling this whole thing, so I'm pulling all the bearings out, all the shafts, all the mechanisms, cleaning everything, pulling the seals out. This is the input shaft bearing on the case. there's actually a seal behind it which seals the fluid from the input shaft going to the clutch. I'm gonna pull that out. We got all replacement stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish pulling this thing apart. All right, so if you can see these threads versus these threads, these ones are fucked up. These ones aren't. Well, some of these, right? It's because I guess you're supposed to take them off, break them all loose, and then take them out, and I wasn't, and that's why this one's fucked up. So I'm gonna use all the ones that aren't fucked up, and we should be good. So pull this ring off here. We're ready to go. All right, there's two bearings, a seal behind here, the axle seal here, two 10 mils, this 12 mil right here unlocks the shaft. You can pull the shaft out, this 12 mil and this 12 mil. Then you can pull this shaft out so you can replace the seal, because I know most of y'all who know Hondas know this seal leaks a lot on a lot of these cars. So we got the seal for that. Basically got everything brand new. I'm gonna go ahead and just start disassembling it real quick, and then we can go ahead, clean everything, and start getting it all back together. Alright, for this bearing, I just broke the plastic cage, and I'm going to use this thing to get the lip on the bearing right here, on the lip of the bearing, and it should come right up and out. Like a glove. There's a little ball in there that I'm going to grab when I flip the trans over. Looks like there was a spring and a ball in there, and that I did not know about. So yeah, boom. All right, so the trans is completely dismembered. Other than taking the shafts apart, I'm going to clean the cases, clean up all the internal pieces, and once that's finished, then we can take apart the shafts, show you how those go together, take apart, and we can then reassemble everything. The only thing I'm gonna have to try and find to do is go find a vise, because I don't have one here, and you need to vise down the counter shaft so you can torque the top bolt, and also vise down the differential so you can torque the reverse thread nuts for the ring gear onto the diff. So other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and get these things clean, and then we can move on to showing you how the shafts come apart. All right, now that I have the trans cleaned, basically the case, we're going to start disassembling our input shaft and our counter shaft. Now I'm going to do these one at a time, so I'm going to mix it up and yada yada yada. Okay, so on this counter shaft, we got first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and then this is reverse. This nut up top here, I believe it's torqued to 80 foot-pounds, broke loose, and then torqued to 80 foot-pounds again, and then it's staked so it doesn't move. So that would need an impact to take that off. Now this nut up here is a 30 millimeter. I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble this shaft first because it's the easiest. It's only got one synchronizer, and we also have the selectors as well. So we'll do that one real quick and see how it goes. This part is kind of difficult, so let's see if we can get it. Alright, now taking this apart, I'm going to set everything up basically the way that it come off so that, you know, you can remember how it came off. So nut, there's a little spacer up top there. First bearing, obviously we're going to replace these. Second bearing, it's a roller bearing. And then sometimes these gears come off easy, sometimes they don't. that gear. So like this one's not going to come off easy. Now what you can do, what I do is I get a piece of wood and I put it on the floor and I turn this upside down so this part is on the wood, and I just tap this edge onto the wood. Everything on this shaft will then just, using gravity and the weight of it, just pull it off of the shaft. My finger. Just like that, she comes off. Now, some of these gears have roller bearings inside of them, and they also have this little seal here. This seal matters, so you gotta make sure you have it on the correct way. So, this whole gear assembly, I'm just gonna leave as is. Like that. Then we have the selector and the synchronizer. Well, this is the selector. That was a reversed selector. Last gear, synchronizer, and then again, roller bearing and this seal here. All right, I was able to get that seal off that's over there and the roller bearing, so I'm gonna go ahead and brake clean the shaft, brake clean the gears, brake clean everything so it's very nice and clean, and then start putting it back together. So this is our first gear selector, reverse, first, second, reverse selector right here. Brand new. I'm gonna go ahead and replace that one with this one. I'll show you what the teeth look like when we do and get them out of the way. I'm just placing everything in order so that we can be quick about it, I guess. So you can already see these teeth. I don't know if you can see them, but they're pretty, a little bit butched, right? These ones are just perfectly angled, no mush, nothing. This gear will engage really well. These aren't too bad, but they're definitely not as good as the replacement. Okay, so I've had the synchronizers soaking. This synchro looks different from the second whatever synchro because it has these notches in it. I don't know if you can see them. This notches, that one doesn't have that. So I'm looking here now. I don't think I see any of them with any special notches. So I had the synchro soaking in fluid. I don't see any with any special notches, but these are both the same size, which are these two, I believe. Let me just make sure that this is the same size. It is. Alrighty, let's assemble. So I am going to I'm gonna lube this up. You could probably do this dry, but I'm just going to not take my chances. I'm gonna lube it up. I'm gonna dip it in the cup here, put it on the shaft, get the thing on, put the seal back on, and then yeah, so here we go. Now on these selectors, there is a center that has two bigger teeth than the others. Those fit in the center of the selector, the guide here. So just line those up, slide right down over. Like that. Now this gear has a synchro on it as well. Alrighty, and that is how the shaft goes together. Now this nut calls for 80 foot-pounds. Torque it, break it loose, torque it again. I don't have a vise, so that tightening that will have to wait until I'm somewhere where I have a vise, along with the differential, the ring gear, and the LSD, which I haven't put together yet. So I'm gonna get the other shaft apart, and we can go ahead and put the synchros in that as well. I'm gonna clean up everything and we can reassemble. All right, I got everything clean. I got our new selectors put in line. I got our new bearing put in line. Everything's ready to go. Our synchronizers are gonna get put in order when we go to put it in together. So let's go ahead and assemble this thing. Reverse of what we took it apart like. Boom! I forgot to put the springs on there a couple times, as you saw, but she's assembled. Now the only thing to do is get the bearings in the case and get all the linkage back in and get it together. Alright, this kit that we bought came with the shifter boot seal, the input shaft seal, which goes right here. It comes with the boot for the shifter arm, and then 2 axle seals. So I'm gonna install this seal right here, and yeah, put our bearing in. Alright, the differential, we have to get these bearings off. So there's no real, I don't have the correct tool for it. So I'm just using this slide hammer and working. Slowly but surely. Come on, bitch! There we go. Bearing's off. I'm gonna get the other one off, and then I can show you how we put the new ones on. But these bolts are shaved down, like, pretty bad. Kinda, sorta. And then I noticed that the case is pretty well worn. So I don't know why that is. I'm gonna look at the part number on this differential, because I didn't buy this diff. This came with my CRX when I bought the CRX. I'm gonna make sure that's the right one. And I'm just gonna have to modify this case so that can accept that and not rub it. So yeah, I'm gonna modify the case and I'll show you guys how we put these bearings on. All right, I modified the case. I took some away and then I tried to just make it smooth. I don't know if that's gonna be enough, but hopefully it is. Now to move on to our differential bearings, getting these things on. It's cold in the shop, so this is fairly cold. You could put this on and like tap it down on, but what I like to do is put it on a pipe like this, use a glove, spin it like the inside portion, and heat it with a torch. Not too hot, just warm enough for it to expand some, and then I take it, put it on top, and it usually slides right down. If it doesn't, you can use a socket or something to tap it down some, and at the end, just to get it seated, you can use a punch and just get it fully sat down on there. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that, and we'll go ahead and move on. Now that was already all the way seated just by me slapping on it. It's all the way down. Now I just wait for it to cool off, because now that it's hot, it may slip off if I turn it over. So I'll let it cool down, and then we can flip it over to the other side. One thing I do is I have the bearing letters. You can see them up here on the bearing right there. I have them facing outward usually with the diff. So let that cool down, flip it over, we'll do the same thing with the other side. That one just fell right on, which is perfect. Let it cool off and we're Gucci. All right, now while this is cooling off, I'm gonna go ahead and put this differential ring gear on it. Now there's a beveled edge here, which isn't on this side. The beveled edge goes down because of the radius here. So go ahead and grab our bolts. Remember, they are reverse thread, so righty is not tighty, lefty is tighty. All right, I got them all seated and flat. We just gotta torque them down. I don't have a vise at the moment, so I can't torque them down. So these are gonna have to wait along with the shaft. But since they are both together and we have to put this in the case to get everything together, I'm gonna go ahead and try and get these things torqued now. So what I found online is these are 74 foot-pounds, and I believe the shaft nut here is 80. Torque it, break it loose, torque it again, and then stake it so that it doesn't move. So I'm gonna try and get those done. I think there's a vise up at the big shop. I'm just gonna borrow it quick, go get that handled, we'll be right back. Alrighty, let's get this thing torqued real quick. There's 80, I'm gonna break it loose and then torque it down again. Torque it down one more again. I went over by 5 pounds, so I'm going to break it loose again and retorque it. Boom, on the money. So with the diff, I'm not able to get it in here long ways, so I have to stand it up, try and torque it the best I can. Hopefully it doesn't move, and then flip it over. You do a cross pattern. There's 10 bolts, so try to do it as best you can. Alright, I got all these bolts torqued. I got the shaft bolt torqued. I have to stake it. So where it's at right now, I just gotta punch it so that it stays there. And we'll be ready to rock. I'm gonna put the shafts in without the shift forks. And I'm going to measure the in and out play of the input shaft to see if we may need to add a spacer, washer, or whatever to there. I've never done that before, so I have to figure out exactly how to do it, but yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap this together real quick, and we'll get an idea of what it needs when we measure it. Now our kit also came with this snap ring. It goes up here and locks the shaft to the case. We don't need a new one, but I'm gonna replace it anyways, and I'm gonna keep the extra one for the spare. Now I'm just gonna put 2 bolts in it. It doesn't need to be like anything crazy. I just need to hold the case together, so that I can get like try and get a decent measurement of what that play is gonna be. I still haven't found the stock number yet, or the factory number yet, so I gotta do that as well. All right, got 2 bolts in. The shaft isn't locked yet. What you do is you flip it over, the weight of the shaft will then lock it into place. You'll hear it click. All right, the shaft didn't drop. You kind of got to tap it on the floor sometimes, so I'm going to do that real quick. Hear it click. Just heard it click. They're all good. Now I got to figure out how we can test this shaft play. Honestly, it doesn't feel like there is any. So that's good, but not good at the same time. So let's see what we can do. All right, my dudes. So I've been in here for a couple days trying to get this reading, trying to find this thing we're looking for, and I was able to do it. What you basically have to do, I'll insert some pictures and show you what I did. I built a tool. It basically clamps onto the input shaft and lifts it up so that you can put a gauge on it and measure the distance that it moves, and that gives you your thrust clearance. You'll see the pictures, but trans turned over, clamp in the shaft, lift it up, gauge on top, gives you your clearance. Found the clearance. Our clearance is literally at the spec. It's at 7 thousandths, and they want between 4 and 7, so we're good. It's time to assemble and time to get this thing finished. All right, putting this thing together is pretty simple. Once you have the shafts in and the detents and everything is tight, this will go last. So you put the magnet in, these tangs go upward like this. Boom. Okay, now you put the diff in first, nose down, and then you will mate the shift forks and the shafts together, and you will make sure this conical washer is up like this. It'll look like a bowl. It's gonna want to, instead of having flat down, it's gonna be flat up. That's how this thing goes. I don't know if you can see that, but it bows up on the outside. So that'll go up towards the bottom of the shaft. It'll bow up. You'll do that. Put the shafts with the forks, and then you'll set them down into place, and then you can start putting everything else in together. So as you're putting the forks down in, you're gonna wanna lift this little piece up here, flip it up so that it fits in the little jaws of the shift forks there. I don't know, it's hard to see it, but right here there's like an opening. You wanna position that in it so that when it falls down inside of the shift forks. Now most people don't use silicone on this, they use like thread lock or something. I use silicone, got some Honda bond here, so just throw some on the threads, put the spring in place. This is also a D10 spring, it's what helps make the shifter feel more solid. Boom, put it in, call it quits. Now the last thing to do on this side of the case really is to put this this dowel in here. This locks that shaft in place so that it cannot come out. I believe that's all that this is for. Again, I put some hot dip on it, call it a day. Okay, ready to put the case on. All I gotta do is put some Honda bond on it. I usually squeeze like a thin line and then use my finger and smear it all the way around. Then it creates a nice layer. Put it on, made it together, tighten it down. Obviously you gotta get this spring clip in the groove, which I'll show you guys that. Tighten it down, and then you don't put fluids in it until the next day, 24 hours or so. Obviously it'll be in the car by then, but yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some on there. Show you guys how to get this clip set. Alright, case almost seated here. The only thing we got to do is get this little spring clip in its home. So you use your compression, whatever pliers you got, spring opener joints, open it, push the case down. You know, you can see that they're like opened, but they're not closed on the thing. The case is pretty much seated. Just gonna tap it down for a little bit extra confirmation. Right now you can go ahead and put the bolts in, you can tighten it, and then what you'll do for this piece to get that the seat, flip the trans over, tap it on the ground, it'll click right in place. Okay, so also with this end cap that goes over that thing, put some RTV on the threads, tighten it down. Whatever RTV is left on the outside, I just smush around, kind of creates a seal. The trans is basically back together. Only thing I got to do is get the clutch fork and the throwout bearing and the spring back on, and then the transmission is 100% finished. I got to put the reverse switch in as well. And the trans is 100% finished, and we can then move on to putting it back in the car, which I probably won't show you guys that. We'll just cut to it being in the car, and we'll catch up when it's finished. Real quick, Carlos did want me to look at the clutch, and I did pull it off. Now, the pressure plate, it just has a little bit of hot spots, but it doesn't look, I mean, it could look way worse. And I beat the shit out of this clutch. This is the same clutch that was, when this single cam was in my CRX, I beat the shit out of it. Same clutch. This thing's only rated for 250 foot-pounds of torque, and we're making 275, and it holds it all. So, the clutch, the actual clutch disc itself looks good. It's getting a little low, but it looks good. And the pressure plate itself has a few hot spots, but it's nothing major. And the clutch wasn't slipping. So just wanted to make sure that it was good. It was not too bad. It'll last us maybe another summer. And then we'll replace the clutch when we do the cam, because we're going to need it for more power. So yeah, we're just going to send it on this and see how it goes. Alrighty, boys. She's back to her old glory. About to take her for a spin, make sure everything checks out. She's running pretty good. Everything sounds normal. Got a new alternator installed as well, the correct one. So, about to take her for a spin real quick. But that's probably all for this one, guys. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for coming by. We're gonna get back to that car because we need to finish that car, and hopefully we can get moving on my car soon once some more money comes in. So thanks for checking it out, guys. Check you out on the next one. Deuces.